Hello, this is Dave. I thought I'd make a quick video to tell you not to give in, not to despair and never give up. Now that might sound oddly non-specific, but we're at war. But it's an asymmetrical war using different tactics that are unrecognisable as war. It has to be said that we lost the last battle, and that was COVID. And our casualties were enormous. Millions have died and millions more will continue to die. Not of the so-called virus, but of the vaccines. And now we're in the midst of the next battle. It's essentially a siege, an economic siege. In ancient times, an army would lay siege to a city by surrounding it and cutting off all supplies of food, water, medicine and all other necessities to force their opponent into submission without the need to fight. Today, our adversary is using the same methods, just repackaged, rebranded and represented to us as an organic and naturally occurring event. They're calling it the cost of living crisis, as if that's actually a thing. But is it? In the midst of this crisis, are the birds panicking? Are the foxes worried? Are the badgers committing suicide? No, there is no cost to live on this earth. The earth is abundant, is always giving and renewing itself. This is an engineered artificial crisis. It might seem like these events are occurring naturally, and the reason that you are failing is because maybe you're not earning enough, or your job isn't good enough, you haven't managed your finances well enough, or perhaps you're not working hard enough. But none of this is true. This has been intentionally manufactured to drive you into debt, confusion, desperation, and even suicide. It's no coincidence that several Western countries are rolling out suicide pods and enacting assisted death legislation, all in lockstep. In Canada, assisted dying is already legal and accounted for about 5% of deaths in 2023. I've spoken to quite a few suicidal people, and I've been able to change their outlook on their lives with just one conversation. But I did it just by changing their perspective on life. So they no longer felt that suicide was their only option. But if any of them had encountered somebody from the healthcare industry, they'd no doubt be assisted into what the medical butchers call brain death, which we now know means that they will be alive and conscious when they come to harvest the organs, because they can't take organs from a dead person. I've been watching what's been going on in America, where, as we know, whatever happens there will happen here in the UK within months or perhaps even weeks. What I'm seeing is increasing numbers of people who are on, six-figure salaries who are struggling to survive. The elite have been busy engineering this worldwide food famine. They've been killing livestock or genetically modifying them or inoculating them with mRNA vaccines that inoculate us if we eat them. They've been infusing plants and fruits with poisonous chemicals and gene therapy drugs and making it impossible for farmers, while simultaneously they've been buying up all available farmland. This famine will not look like a famine because the supermarket shelves will be full, but none of it will be food. But it doesn't matter if you actually find actual real food, because you won't be able to buy it, because the cost of being alive on this earth is rapidly exceeding the reach of all but the wealthy 1%. How coincidental is it that the only ones who have been prosperous over the last decades have been that same 1%? Is it coincidental that this 1% have stated on numerous occasions that they want to exterminate billions and billions of us. I don't think it's a coincidence that these same people are those who control the banks, the corporations, the government, the courts, the media, and the education system. The only reason we gathered together in these societies was essentially to take care of all our resources for mutual benefit. Now, that might have been how it worked in the past, but now it seems obvious that our resources are being taken from us for the benefit of the 1%. But it's all an illusion. The land is not owned. It is to be used. Birds and squirrels don't own the trees. They make use of them for food and for shelter. But once again, this 1% own all the land, more than they can ever use. But there again, they are using it. They're using it to subjugate us. But using something as a weapon to harm others is against natural law. So it's our right and our duty to disregard their claims. I believe, however, that we've been given a playbook, a set of misunderstood ancient books that tell us what's happening, who's behind it and why. It speaks of celestial beings entering our world and mating with human women to spawn their own bloodline, with the intent to wipe out and replace the race of man. However, the Most High has said multiple times, do not fear, because fear is unnecessary in this world. There are lots of solutions that we can employ to deal with these issues. So don't worry about it. Right? Don't fear the food famine. You have all the food, water and medicine you'll ever need. You have it with you at all times. And it's your urine. Now, I know that it sounds unpalatable, but you are being intentionally starved to death. And drinking your urine will keep you fed, hydrated, strong and healthy indefinitely. We all know it's a survival technique, and whether you know it or not, we are in survival mode right now. Now, money is the foundation of this illusion. And I've seen a number of videos with people saying that they are getting to the point where they will have to start stealing just to survive. That shows you how much we've forgotten about who we are. All of these countries that we live in are bankrupt. They have absolutely no money. So we became the money. The government borrows money using us as collateral. And all other money comes into existence when we sign our names to authorize its creation. We are the creditors. Money doesn't come from the banks. The banks ask permission from us to create it. So if there aren't enough bank promissory notes out there to pay things with, then pay with your own promissory note. So make up your own note and pay with that. You're not stealing, you're paying with a valid cash instrument. The shop can deposit that in the bank and the bank can credit their account with it. Okay, the bank's articles of association state that that's what they do. Right? They just don't want to do it for you. You don't have to pay council tax for any reason whatsoever. Okay, because there is no law saying that you have to pay it. Don't pay for water. Instead, charge them your fees for making the water that they supply drinkable. And tell them that you'll pay their charges if you pay yours. Or you'll pay their charges if they pay yours. Don't pay for their made-up fines and penalty charges, because they're all based on rules that don't apply to you. You can't be imprisoned for not paying, only intimidated and threatened by toothless enforcement agents. Don't let their fear tactics change who you are or how you live your life. Don't lose heart. This is an utterly wicked world, dripping with evil. But most can't see it because their minds have been slowly conditioned to accept it. We have elites drinking the blood of terrified children. Computer chips made of living human conscious brain cells. Children sexualized and brainwashed into changing their genders by depraved drag queens. We've got planes spraying poison in the skies every day. We've got defibrillators in school playgrounds. Baby dismemberment facilities, organ harvesting from living people, suicide pods, etc., etc., etc. It's a nightmare that we have to struggle to wake up from. But waking up is what's happening today. Right? What we need to do, the only thing we need to do, is to say no. Yeah, there's a meme out there, and the people said no, the end. And it's true. All we need to do is say no. We're not going along with it. And just don't go along with what these governments say. I mentioned about the Nephilim, the children of the celestial beings and human women. They're still around today, and they hate humans, which is why they created these inhuman systems and societies around us, because they hate us and they want to exterminate us. That must be obvious to people now. It is obvious. I said, maybe you wouldn't have seen it because it got censored. Back in 2020, I made a video and I said when COVID started that this is either the dress rehearsal or this is the end game. And within a week or two, I put out another video, again censored, that I think this is the end game. Right? It's not the dress rehearsal because we've gone past the point of no return, and that is the case. We can see them rushing, and that is the case. We can see them rushing ahead to try and get their systems in place, right? To actually do the final culling of humanity, right? Because that is the end game. The COVID thing, right, was to take out, I'm sorry to say, take out the weak and the stupid. Right? Now, those who didn't fall for the for the jabs, the poison jabs, they're to be herded into smart cities, controlled economically, and then disposed of in a sort of methodical fashion. That's the end game. And unfortunately, it's all been put into place at this point, at this time. But as I said, the answer to this is to not go along with it, right? And it might be hard, it might be very difficult because we've been conditioned to accept the way this society works, so we can't really see any alternative. But here's the thing. The architects of this system, these Nephilim, they are left-brain thinkers. They don't really have this facility that we have, which is this right-brained, sort of heart-based way of seeing the world. I've spoken in other talks about the fourth dimension. The right-hand side of our brain and our heart literally connect to the fourth dimension. And that's where ideas and creativity comes from. But these Nephilim, right, don't have that access. They can only think logically. And the problem with logic is that you can only think of things in terms of things you already know. So while they can put their left brain systems into place, it will never account for this ability that humans have to come up with creative solutions to their systems. It always has happened. Whenever they put something in place, You know, there's like a black market that occurs underneath the radar that, you know, people who are awake can survive what's going on the surface. Yeah, so that's what's going to happen. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to happen, but I can tell you that that's what will happen. This bloodline has been working to take over the world from the you know, the rest of the human race, and because they don't believe they are part of the human race. They know they're not part of the human race. Right? They believe themselves superior. They say they have the blood of the gods in them. Right? You go and look up who these gods are. They know who these gods are because they sacrifice to these gods in order to get information and power. Okay, that's why all these blood rituals and stuff that are still going on ever since the ancient days. They're just still carried on, but in secret. And with that power, with that information, they've been able to put themselves into positions of power and very slowly, inch by inch, take over the entire world. Right now we do have a one world government. This bloodline has basically infiltrated every government in the world, and they're all working in concert with each other. I think it was Klaus Schwab who basically said, you know, we penetrate the cabinet.
When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So,
you know, they literally put their people everywhere, in every position of power, every position of influence. Okay, and they've been orchestrating a puppet show for the benefit of the humans. Right, so here we are in this world, right, which has been completely taken over by, okay, for want of a better word, aliens who hate humans. And the goal is to exterminate the humans. Now, there's a book that explains the whole story from beginning to end, and that's the Old Testament. And the Old Testament basically tells you that we've won. We win this battle. And they know it too. They know it. And so what's happening right now is that they know they're losing or they've lost, and they're going to try and take as many of us with them as they go. Because they've got that spiteful hatred. Even though they've lost, they want to inflict as much damage before they die out altogether. And how is it they're dying out? Well, despite their claims that this world is overpopulated, in fact, the opposite is true. While they're screaming, we've got to reduce the population, right? In actual fact, the population has gone extinct. I was just about to say is going extinct. No, it's already happened. There are a lot of countries, many countries, especially the Western countries, have been below replacement levels for generations, which means it's mathematically impossible for them to recover. So the population collapse has happened. Right? We're just seeing the last generations run down. Essentially, that's it. Okay, but there is only one continent that isn't actually going that way, and that's Africa. Right? Where well, when I say Africa, a particular part of Africa, it's called Sub-Saharan Africa, or Negro Land, as it was called. Right? That's the only continent that's still well above replacement level, even though it is starting to collapse. right? But it's not there yet, and it won't be there for quite some time. All the other populations in the world have actually collapsed. I remember doing a video back in 2017, was it 2015, one of those, where I showed an MEP who was saying in the European Parliament that this is the top issue that should be discussed, and it isn't being discussed.
Mr. President, demographers tell us that in order to sustain itself, a population needs a birth rate of 2.1 live births per woman. In the whole of Europe, the only country that is reproducing at sustainability level is Albania, or Turkey if you count Turkey as a European country. Nowhere else. Europe, including European Russia, is scheduled, according to one UN report, to lose 100 million people over the next 40 years. Germany alone is going to see a shrinkage of its population of 20 million. These are not projections about what might happen if we don't do something. If you like, there's nothing we can do about it now. The decline in birth rates has already happened. The only question is how we deal about it. Why did it come to this stage? What brought us to this pass? Well, one doesn't want to oversimplify. There's obviously a lot of things going on to do with changing working patterns, to do with the spread of contraception, to do with the different role of women in society, to do with longevity. But I wonder whether one part of the problem is the way in which the state has expanded and squeezed out the private sphere, has annexed to itself jobs and duties that were traditionally discharged within the family: childcare, education, social security. The first generation raised with cradle-to-grave welfare, in other words, to be excused the traditional responsibilities of adulthood, was also the first to give up on parenthood. And we now face a choice between demographic collapse or importing 100 million people to sustain our numbers and pay our pensions. This should be the top issue in Europe, and it's not one that we're going to address by arguing about changes in employment regulation.
That, by about 2050, Europe is going to lose 100 million people. But those projections were wrong, because we've already reached that stage, right? Because it's not only the population is declining, the rate of change is increasing as well. So you can't, when they make a projection, they can't, because they can only make a linear projection, and this is an exponential collapse. So basically this MEP said, the only things we can do about this collapse that has already happened is accept the population collapse or import 100 million people. Guess which solution they chose? Yeah, so this migrant crisis isn't accidental. It isn't, all these refugees. No, they were invited in. So that bloodline and other bloodlines are declining. But more crucially, the 1%, the upper echelon of this system, they are dying off. We've seen members of the royal family, we've seen, the Queen. She died, but, she was already dead 4 years before they announced it. Right? You can go to watch the footage of the funeral.
Coming up as we watch that journey of the State Heiress carrying Her Majesty the Queen's coffin to Windsor Castle. That is part of that journey. He hasn't got there yet. So on the rather unprepossessed now A308, that runs alongside the Thames, which Martin, of course, takes it past Runnymede. Yes. And all the resonances there of King John and Magna Carta, and that then started to establish the relationship between the monarchy and the people.
It did, and we then had in 1265 a Parliament meeting in the very place where she has been lying in state for the last 4 years, Westminster Hall, and also Runnymede.
Yeah, so I believe Charlie Sausage Fingers has been dead for a while as well. We're just seeing body doubles out there. In fact, I think I saw a video of Charles hugging a group of black women. Now, anybody who's been watching the royal family would know that the Queen would always wear gloves because she wouldn't want to touch, us mere peasants. Okay, they don't even want to touch us. There was a video years ago of a World War II veteran who reached to shake Charles's hand, and Charles whipped his hand away and very quickly because he didn't want to touch this guy. But now we've got a new Charles who hugs black women. No, he's a body double, and that body double was really enjoying playing the role. So we've lost a few Rothschilds, where we don't get to see the actual elite, the families that nobody speaks about, if they're dying off. But I can almost guarantee that they are dying off. So what we're seeing in the world is that the upper elite are dying off. The middle management of this system are still here, carrying out the agenda, but they are sort of asking upstairs for guidance, and nothing's coming back. So this is why I think they've run out of ideas, and they're rushing to get everything into place because they're not getting the guidance. So that's why they're saying let's do another pandemic, even though that's not going to work. So, as a good captain says,
the line must be drawn here, this far, no farther.
Because if we let this continue, then our lives will be unrecognisable. They'll be worse than the totalitarian idea, the archetype that we've seen in 1984 and Brave New World and all that. It's going to be worse than all of that. It's going to be worse still for our children, and if there are any, our children's children. But you don't have to listen to crazy conspiracy theorist Dave, bloke from Basildon. No, you can just go and look at China, because they've already got this system in place. They let the digital ID slide through. Now they've got the invisible cashless money system and the social credit system. And you can see what's happening to the Chinese people in real time.
They didn't go broke, they got deleted. In China, tens of thousands of young people are suddenly homeless, not because of money, but because the system erased them.
Imagine a society where everything you do, everything you say, and everything you buy is controlled and evaluated by the authorities. This is what the Chinese Communist Party calls social credit.
By using the mechanism of social credit, we'll be able to establish a blacklist of people and create a system of punishment that will be based on a scientific theory. These punishments will serve as a whip to rebuild moral values. Our society needs it.
The country's social credit system decides who's trustworthy. But if you're blacklisted, it's game over. Your WeChat Pay stops working, you can't receive your salary, can't buy food, can't even book a train ticket. It's like being alive, but digitally. Many are now sleeping in the streets, cut off from everything. Jobs, housing, even communication. All because one app, one algorithm decided they don't belong.
It's not science fiction. In China, it's a reality. Then there's the public shaming. Photo galleries of blacklisted citizens. There's even an app that shows who around you is in debt.
They're not criminals. They didn't steal, cheat, or harm anyone. They just fell too low on a score and vanished from the digital world. Critics say it's a glimpse into the future, where technology doesn't just track your life, it controls it. So ask yourself, if your entire life depended on your digital reputation, how long before you get deleted?
If you don't do as you're told, you'll be cancelled. Your money's going to be switched off, your ID won't work, and in this zero trust world, you're not trustworthy anymore, because you're not a good citizen as far as the system tells you. Now, when you look at China, you're still seeing the early stages, the early rollout of this system. As it becomes completely widespread, where everybody is enrolled in this thing, then that's when the totalitarian state comes into play, in a big way, worse than 1984, worse than Brave New World, something that we can't even imagine, and then will be the fall of mankind. So it's important. So it's very important. So it's important that we do something about stopping it now, right? And it doesn't take much. The only way they can get this to work is if they get the digital ID in, and the way we can defeat that is, well, this digital ID right now depends on people having a smartphone. Now, these smartphones aren't phones. They are highly sophisticated mobile computers that just happen to make phone calls, right? So they will be the vector of putting you into this digital ID prison. It'll also be where your money's going to be stored, and how your social credit will be sort of displayed to you, right? But if you don't have a smartphone, right, you have, I wish I had my Nokia with me, got a little Nokia that barely makes phone calls and texts, right? I don't need anything more than that. I've got a laptop, right, if I need to go on the internet. I've got a camera, which I'm recording this on right now. I use the phone to make phone calls, and that's it, okay? But if you don't have a smartphone, well, how can you pay with your phone? How can you, ID yourself with your phone, if you don't have a smartphone? So to beat this, just requires you not to fight, not to march, not to riot, but just to say no, just to see where this is going and just not comply with it. Yeah, again, it might be difficult if you're not used to going up against authority, but this is the time, this is the only time to fight back, right, and withdraw your consent, because all of this requires your consent. So just say no. Thanks for listening.
You will get a digital ID, but what if we do? Imagine if the whole of the UK decided not to sign up to the mandatory digital ID. Here's what would happen in the first 30 days. And by day 30, that's when the story really begins. The rollout begins and nobody signs up. Billions are expected overnight, but online portals sit empty, mate. The press call it a national act of defiance, and the government are just sitting there looking shocked. Pharmacies go off book, doctors start handwriting notes, employers pay cash in hand, benefits freeze, universal credit, pension, child support, but communities rally. The state may hold the money, but people take care of their own. The media splits. The Mirror and The Independent call it sabotage, but independent outlets call it for what it really is. A proper strike. Here goes Keir Starmer on the news saying, parents should be thinking about their children. To the public, that man just sounds desperate. Full month in, the refusal holds. System stalled, the economy bleeding, and the government cut off by the people. Turns out making digital IDs mandatory wasn't a strength. The whole system collapses the moment people stop playing along.